Hello and welcome to this section. We are going to be discussing branding strategy today, and I am Dr. Kristy Grayson. I'm looking forward to sharing some really important information about branding as it relates to your marketing strategy. So let's get started. Before we talk about branding, I want to point out that this entire module has an assignment called the brand evaluation assignment. And I want you to take a good look at the requirements of this assignment as we walk through each one of these particular components. So for the branding assignment that we're doing today, we are going to be looking at the core brand messages. So I suggest that you take out your brand evaluation workbook and start working on the first page here. So I want to talk about what a brand means. So the American Marketing Association indicates that a brand is a name, term, sign, symbol, or design, or a combination of them intended to identify the goods and services of one seller or group sellers and to differentiate from other sellers. Excuse me. So there's 2 points that are really important here. A brand is used to identify an organization, particularly for a consumer to become so aware of the brand that they identify it and it becomes part of their awareness. The second thing is that there has to be a unique value to that brand that differentiates them from their competitors. So I want to show you where branding fits in the marketing process. So as you know, we always start off in the marketing process with understanding the entire holistic landscape from who we are as a company, and we'll talk a lot about that today. Our competition. What do we know about our customers? Who are they? What do they buy from us? In this world today, we have to partner and collaborate with suppliers and in lots of different partners. And then what is the climate or the context like? Imagine how marketing has changed in the past year with the pandemic. How does the economy change our strategies? What about politics? So we look at the landscape first. Once we understand the landscape, then we start with marketing strategy. We develop our segmentation or the groups of people who are most likely to use our products and services. Of those groups of people, we then prioritize them and we focus on those groups that we have enough time and money and we think are the best groups for us to be able to create our marketing strategies for. And that is called targeting. And finally, positioning is how do we demonstrate the value to our target audiences based on their unique needs. So that is the meat of developing a marketing strategy. It's not until all of this happens that we look at the marketing mix. And this is the traditional 4 Ps. Our product, our pricing, how are we going to promote, and what distribution channels do we sell our product from? So this is a marketing process, but where we are today is something that I think you ought to know, is that the brand of the company really encompasses the entire marketing process from our who we are in the world today, developing our strategy, and how we create a marketing mix is really all about the brand. So I wanted to set the stage there to let you know how important branding is to every element we have. So let's talk about, I want you to pull out your worksheet. And we're going to from your assignment, and I want to talk about what a core brand is. So in order for us to have a core brand, it comes from understanding what a firm does, its beliefs, its values, and what we want the world to understand about us. So the first thing we do is we look at creating a mission, a vision, our values. And where would you find this in a company? So if you look at nearly any company's website, if you go to the About Us section, you're going to find sort of the holistic story of the brand. And it'll tell us why do we exist? And what is really important to understand is the goal of the firm is to ensure that the outside world perceives us as we perceive and want our brand to be perceived, as we intend. And then we also look at what is the personality of our brand. It will align to the mission, the visions, and the values. And it will also have a particular tone that will set the stage for all of our communications. So pull out that sheet and we'll be working on that. So first of all, we're going to start off with brand values. The brand values are how one company's offering stands compared to others in the category. So we're going to take a couple of examples here. So if you were to go to Google and look up their brand values, they have 10 different things that they believe in. They're going to focus on end users and everyone else will follow. It's best to do one thing really, really well. What are they known for? Search. Fast is better than slow. Democracy on the web works. You don't need to be at your desk to need an answer. You can make money without doing evil. That used to be one of their taglines. There's always more information out there. The need for information crosses all borders, meaning they're global and they're inclusive. You can be serious without a suit, and great is just not good enough. So if you read these statements and you're creating a brand for Google, you are going to want that brand to incorporate these tenets. The brand values of Nike is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And if you were to go to the About Us section on the Nike website, they are going to describe in detail what they mean by these words that are important to them. So an example is they define their value through their purpose. And in what they're coming right out and saying equality is not a game, but achieving it will be our greatest victory until we win. So their purpose is to unite the world through sport, to create a healthy planet, active communities, and an equal playing field for all. So you are going to notice in all of the branding, the communications, the business decisions, how they treat their employees are part of these brand values. Now, Virgin is the backbone of its values, providing heartfelt service, being delightfully surprising, red hot, and straight up, while maintaining an insatiable curiosity and creating smart disruption. So not only is this how they plan, what their mission is, how they plan on operating their company, there's a great list of adjectives there that really describe their personality. Now, Lululemon is really about quality, product integrity, fun, greatness. And Lululemon even creates a manifesto of the words they believe in. And you will see these words inside their stores, on their employee communications. But they're really upfront and clear. All of these companies are with what they value. So I want you to think a little bit about the companies that you know and love, or the company that you're working with for your semester project. And what do you value? What do you see in a brand? So I want you to jot down your answer. What sort of values do you seek in a brand? And what are the brand values of the company that you're working with for your project? So I suggest you go to the About Us section on their website, if they have one. If not, ask the owner, ask the employees, ask them what the values are to their company. So the second thing I want to talk about is why branding is important. Branding is extremely important because it builds equity. It's a goodwill line item on the income statement. And brand equity, when you have a lot of equity, meaning people's willingness to buy, people's awareness of you, it will increase oftentimes your revenue premium. It may increase your stock price. And there's several different brand equity models that are used, but there are really only a couple that have truly been around from an academic standpoint. So Keller has a customer-based brand equity model. So the way that Keller views brand equity, remember, you can think of brand equity as being what a brand is worth, the value to the company. And he has this pyramid here saying that branding goes from salience or your identity, like those values. What do you believe in? Who are you? Why do you exist? And then what are you? The meaning of the brand. What are you comes in terms of what we look and see and feel, the imagery, the performance of the brand. How are we doing with our customers? Then we go up a little bit higher in that we get into judgments and feelings. What about you? What is it about the brand that we love or hate? And then finally is the resonance, that ability to connect yourself with that brand and seeing you as a part of the brand. What about you and me together? The relationships. So that is Keller's customer-based brand equity model. And then we have David Aker, and David Aker has a different sort of look on the model for building brand equity. And what Aker tells us is that he believes that, first of all, you must have these tenets in order to have a strong brand equity, in order that make up what your company is worth or the brand is worth. Brand awareness, do I know who you are? Perceived quality of the brand, the people, the products. Association, meaning I have some sort of commitment. I've used your product. I am committed to at least trying you. And then loyalty, which is your level of acceptance of the product to the point that you might advocate or you might not advocate for the product. So Aker takes a bit of a different model in that each one of these areas we could build strategies around. So I want to talk a little bit about, I talked about goodwill and brand equity. So brand equity is built of brand value. And the value of the brand really equates to the buyer's willingness to pay for it. So the stronger the brand, likelihood, the more willing a consumer is to pay for that brand. Well, brand awareness is the extent to which a brand comes to mind from a consumer and thinks about the product category. So if I say to you, I'm hungry for a cookie, what's the first cookie that comes to your mind? I think Oreo. Oreo has a strong brand. I like an Oreo. Is it as good as me going to the cookie shop and buying one? Of course not. But how hard do you need to think about that particular brand within its category? Are you aware of it or not? Then we have, once you have awareness, we build what's called a brand image. And the brand image really has to do with an association. When I say a particular brand like Oreo, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about the brand? And we think about that in terms of, what types of things come to mind? Do I like it or not? How strong of a feeling do I have about it? And how unique is it compared to others in your space? So I wanted to just show you here a couple of examples. So look at this particular logo, and I want you to think or jot down what comes to mind. So as I look at this logo is from Crumble Cookies. It's a franchise cookie store here in Utah, and it's a really cute little logo with a little chef and a little cookie in his hat. And when I look at this logo, I see the smile on the chef. I see kind of a yummy cookie with maybe some chocolate chips. I have sort of a fun feeling, a fun association with this. And the more I associate this particular cookie store with that brand, I have a feeling for it. I become more aware. Now, compare this to this brand here. So jot down some of the feelings that you have or your thoughts. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of this brand. So this is Mercedes, and Mercedes is often thought of a luxury brand, high quality European car. You might get a different feeling or have a different association with the Mercedes brand as you do the Crumble Cookies brand. Obviously, they're not in the same category, but it evokes different emotion. So how about this one? The Playboy Bunny. So the Playboy Bunny here it's a cute little bunny, right? And it stands for maybe adult news, adult entertainment. It's a cute little bunny. I would say is really cute, just like the little cookie guy chef here. But there's a different perception you might get from this bunny than you would with the two other brands. So the image that you want to portray within your branding has to align with the values of your company. So let's talk a little bit about brand awareness. So there is a pyramid that most of us use in the research world on understanding whether how many consumers or are we known in the marketplace or not? What type of awareness do people have? So here we've got the pyramid that goes from unaware of brand. So maybe you've never ever seen the Crumble Cookie brand. You're unaware of it. So that would be we just don't know. That's the bottom of the period. And then maybe I show you a picture of that logo like I did before of the Crumble Cookie brand. And that might trigger something in your mind to say, oh yeah, I've seen that. That's the cookie brand. But then maybe when I'm asking you about, well, what's your favorite, what are a couple of cookie stores that you're aware of? You could say, there's Mrs. Fields. Oh yeah, and there's that Crumble Cookie. So if I don't aid you with a visual or a song or something else, unaided is a little bit further up. Now, we're getting towards the top of the pyramid. So maybe I say, I'm really hungry for cookies. What are you going to have? And they may say, well, maybe I want the Crumble Cookie or maybe I want the Mrs. Fields. So top of mind means when you hear cookie, there's going to be 3 or 4 that come into play. Now, the top of the pyramid is the brand awareness is I always know. When I say sneaker, what do I think of? Nike. When I hear streaming, I think of Netflix. So the dominant brands that come to mind at the top. So our goal in marketing strategy is to take these people who have no awareness to the brand and move them up into the dominant top of the pyramid. Now I want to talk about brand personality. This is a really important topic that you are going to work on for your brand evaluation of the firm you're working with or the product. And Acre in 1997 did a lot of consumer research around how people, what they associated with particular brands. So just like I did with you, I showed you 3 different logos and I asked you what was the first thing to come to mind. Well, through Acre's research, she realized that there were 5 dominant attributes that consumers had when they looked at different brands. And she bucketed them into sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication, and ruggedness. And so she felt that from these thousands of consumers that she interviewed, that these were the primary focus. So if you're thinking about a brand, let's take Crumble Cookies. If I were to look at the Crumble Cookie brand, I would probably either put them in the sincerity or the excitement. If I were to look at Mercedes, maybe I would put Mercedes in the sophistication bucket. Or maybe competence. I would say upper class sophistication. If I were looking at a Jeep, the Jeep brand would probably, in my opinion, go into ruggedness. Maybe it would be excitement, but I'm thinking more ruggedness. So for your what you need to do is to go back to your mission, your vision, and your brand values and think about what kind of personality you want your brand to have. So how do we do this? Well, in Akers' research, one of the things that she did was she knew from her research that the way you say it matters. Your brand personality really is your voice and how you appear to the audience. It also provides creative people to take your personality and creatively place it into creative visual or assets or copy or communications. So how do we go about doing this? So if you one of the things that Aker found out, or she believed, her hypothesis was that people align themselves to brands as if the brands were human. So if you thought your brand were human, what would you ask somebody? So if I would say, what would Nike do if he or she were a human? What would Nike do? So you're going to answer that question. That's going to be part of the personality. And then there's another question that I want you to think about with the brands you're working with. And this particular question will be the 5 adjectives that you will put within your brand evaluation. So if Nike was a person, describe him or her in 5 words. So I would probably, if I were Nike, I would probably say something like athletic, excited, strong, inclusive, humanitarian. I don't know, whatever the 5 things that come to mind. So if you're a company and you're remember the values that were built as a company and your mission and your vision, why you exist, the personality adjectives that you come up with for your company will align to that identity that you want the world to know. So, one of the ways that we as marketers know whether or not we are on point with our brand messaging is that if those 5 words of personality we came up with aren't the same 5 words that come back to us in the research that we do for consumers, we know that there's a disconnect. And we don't want a disconnect because a disconnect doesn't build brand equity. So, brand loyalty are those brands that you as a consumer love. You are going to speak highly of them. You're going to talk to people about your brand. You're going to pay more money for it. You're always going to choose the brand you love versus the competitor. And what we try to do as strategic marketers is we try to woo people away from their brand to our brand in a number of different ways. And one of the most important things about brand loyalty is that if you have high brand loyalty, you love the brand like you would a person, right? That's why it has a personality. So you're willing to share it with others. So here are the top brands in 2021. We have Amazon, Google, Netflix, UPS, Home Depot, USPS, Hershey's, FedEx, Dollar Tree, Cheerios. So these are the top brands in terms of score. So what we just talked about was the theory around brand strategy. And once you build out that theory, you take those theories and you build your strategy from who am I? What do I do for consumers? What is my value proposition? What do I want to be 100 years from now? How do I build value? How do I build awareness? What is my personality? Creating a brand identity is taking that personality and those values and bringing them into a visual identity. So the brand identity is the message the consumer receives from the product, the person, or the thing. And the brand identity will connect the product with recognition. So you might ask yourself, when I say branding, most people say logo. Well, brand is a logo, and yes, it is, but there's other things. So brand identity, what you have to remember, is in every customer touch point. So whether we have a television commercial or a radio spot or a social media post or a story, that brand identity has to be consistent with the same brand identity that the way we answer the phone, how somebody answers a text, maybe the way the cashier talks to its employees. So it's much more just about promotion. It is about all of those touch points that really encompass the experience of a brand. And we want the identity to align to those values, to the experience that we want. So as part of an extra credit assignment that you have in the brand evaluation is one of the things that we do when creating a brand identity is to create a brand identity guide. I have a toolkit which encompasses the things that are most important in a brand identity, and you can develop your own if you would like to get extra credit for the assignment. So I'm going to show you the components of a brand identity are the logo, your brand voice, typography, color palette, imagery, and key messages. So you're working through each of these in your brand evaluation based on the theory that we're talking about within class, but this would be the visual representation of what that means. So Nike has a brand guide, and Nike talks about color, typography, imagery, the logo, the key messages, and they create this guide so that there is consistency in that brand to anyone who touches it. Inside the company, anyone they might outsource to do design work, web design, public relations. This is their guide on how the brand should be used. Here's one for Apple. Apple also has a brand guide. It will show you how to use your fonts, with imagery to use, how you can and cannot use the logo. Here I will, hopefully, shoot, that's not working. Here is Urban Outfitters. Urban Outfitters, I will just quickly go to their website here. So if we were to look at Urban Outfitters, they put together a brand book, a brand guide, a brand identity. They're going to show you how to use the brand. Here's their story. Remember our vision, our mission, our values, what we believe in. The values are right here. They're going to show, here is your vision. These words right here are the personality. So they've got some that are in color here, which if you were to say again, the question, if Urban Outfitters were a person, what would you say? How would you describe him or her in 5 words? So these are the personality: novelty, maximalist, understated, fident, trajectory, playful, cultural, maximalist. Here's some imagery that depicts that personality. It doesn't look very minimalist, does it? And then they come to the brand guidelines. So they're going to show you the logos. They'll show you how you can and can't say things. There will be photography examples. Again, think of that personality every day. Here's their tone of voice, the 5 adjectives: free-spirited, honest, direct, cheeky, and youthful. So all of your communications must have that tone of voice. So when I talk about developing a brand identity guide for your client you're working with, this is extra credit, of course, you can create a beautiful guide. And there's some students every semester that make brand identity guides that are as good as anything I've seen in my career. However, you can just simply use a template if you would like that I have in PowerPoint, and you could create your own brand identity guide. This is not a requirement, but if you're looking for a marketing position, if you take this particular exercise and explain a little bit of the theory and explain how you have created a brand identity or recommended a brand identity for a firm, I guarantee the people sitting across from you with the interview will know what you're talking about and that you've had some experience and some knowledge with this, and you understand the fundamentals of branding strategy. So I want you to think, I know this was a lot of information. This is a long video, but it's really important because remember, branding wraps around the entire marketing process. So I want you to think about the two critical ideas that you've thought of today. Is there anything that makes sense or didn't make sense? And how are you going to use this in the real world? How are you going to translate branding strategy to your job? So as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop me an email on Canvas. You can drop a comment in below the video. And if you are interested in learning more from the Marketing Doctor, subscribe to my YouTube channels. This and other great topics are on there. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic day. And always remember that the value of a brand is built over time, and we're really striving that to honor that brand as it aligns to the values of the organization. So everyone, take care and have a fantastic day.